welcome to Discard. Today I'm going to talk about a stand that may be the best stand on the market for displaying multiple of your cased style games. I'm talking Wii, Wii U, Xbox, PlayStation 4, even some cardboard box games. Let's take a look. So have you ever wondered, how can I display all the artwork on my DVD style or Blu-ray style cased games for PS4, Wii, Xbox, etc.? Any of these games that are in these kind of DVD or Blu-ray style boxes, plus Switch, plus some cardboard games? Well, this stand might be the right one for you and a really good way to display multiples of those, show off all the artwork, and just get it done. Today's stand comes from Syncoplay Retro Gaming, and it's called their Cased Trilogy stand. They call them the Cased Trilogy stand because these are designed to hold 3 different games, and cased because it's for specifically your cased games, though I found it has a lot more options that go beyond cased games themselves. These stands are 3D printed in PLA plastic, and they come in options of black and white, which is pretty good because the standard color of shelves is typically white or black depending on where you are. I know a lot of people have other options and other colors to their shelves, but black and white are just those standard colors. Now, looking really closely at the design, you'll see that there's different notches in each level of this stand, and those notches signify different types of games that can fit into those notches. So beyond it just being a stand for you to lean your games on, they've also taken into account the size of the games and put little notches in there so that your games sit there absolutely perfectly regardless of how you stand them in there. I really like that little extra touch. Those little notches show where you can put things, and it just makes it a lot easier to easily display something in these accurately every single time. Outside of the notches, there's just that little piece at the front that keeps your game from falling out if you happen to be leaning it against that, as well as some kind of lattice work along the side, which keeps it very strong. It's not going to be wiggling or moving or having any wiggle to it at all. And overall, that lattice work just makes it stronger, yet it's still very light. So this thing isn't going to be heavy. Having a whole box full of these things is going to be no problems and super lightweight. But what all does this actually function with? Which games can you put in there and which games can you not fit into these? They've definitely got a list of them up on their website on which ones will fit into these, so you can always go back and check that. There'll be a link in the description to Syncoplay Retro Gaming's Etsy page. But I've also gone up and beyond and tested some other things in these to see if they might work with those as well. So the ones that definitely work with these is CD jewel cases. So this is going to work with, you know, your Dreamcast games, your PS1 games, a lot of the disc-based games that were still put out there in those CD cases originally. It even works for your music. If you have gaming related music, it'll work well with those CDs. And they also tote that these work well with the double stacked CD cases. So I know I got a Final Fantasy 15 CD in there that has multiple CDs in it, and it's a nice double stack, and that fits in there nicely and works really well. And it also, of course, works with your Blu-ray cases. So beyond movies, of course, your PS4, your PS3, and your Xbox One games are going to fit into these perfectly. There is a notch there that's designed for that size of game, so it'll look really fantastic and work really well. And just to reiterate, these look fantastic in there. If you're putting your PS3 or PS4, Xbox One games in here, you're going to see all that artwork, and you can just have a wall designed with all of your games. It looks amazing. And then, of course, one of my favorites, Nintendo Switch games work fantastic in these as well. I think it's much better to see the artwork on Nintendo Switch games than the spines themselves. The spines are all red. When you put a bunch of those games next to each other on the shelf, they kind of just make this big red line across your shelf with some minimal writing on the spines as well. And I think turning those games sideways and seeing that artwork is really awesome, especially in bulk. When you get a bunch of these, it looks amazing. And for those out there who are collecting 3DS and DS games, these work well with those as well. DS and 3DS are kind of a hard system to display. They have that kind of small box style, and it's a little bit thicker than a CD, so it can't really necessarily fit into CD displays, but this is a great option to take those games, turn them sideways, put them in these, and just make a really cool display out of all of those 3DS and DS games. And needless to say, these also work for your PSP and your PS Vita games. PS Vita games are notorious for having awesome artwork on them. They're also small and take up minimal space, and this can really give them a lot more room to work with when you want to look at your Vita games or PSP games. On the site, it also says Famicom Disk System games also work in these displays. So I would take him at his word that those do work, but know that I have not tested those. And then finally, the last one that they have noted that I've also tested are steelbooks. Steelbooks work fantastic in these as well. I would imagine there's got to be some crazy thick steelbook out there that is just crazy, that does not fit in this somehow. But the ones that I have tested seem to work just fine inside of these, like they do say. And I know a lot of those steelbook collectors are always looking for some way to display those steelbooks, because it can be kind of challenging. Now, unfortunately, this thing does not display one of the most important things, and that's subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell so you guys can get notifications of the videos. I really appreciate it if you go over, hit that subscription button, and let's get back to the video. Now, on to some of the things that I've tested that are outside of the bounds of what they say these are for. And just understand that I have done some testing on these myself and found that these work great with some of your cardboard boxed items. One of the things that I found that this actually works really well with is NES boxed games. I would say that there's kind of a caveat to this, that over time, if you are putting pressure on any part of that cardboard box, you could damage it. So maybe having some retro protection plastic cases on there so that you're not rubbing against the cardboard is a good idea. But outside of that, it does look beautiful, and you will be able to see that awesome NES artwork. I also tested out the few Genesis boxed games that I do have, and it seems to work just perfectly with them. It is exactly the right size for those Genesis box games to be putting into there. So it's an option for people who like to collect Genesis, especially in box. And another cool thing that I found that these work for is, of course, Game Boy games. Boxed Game Boy games. I have a bunch on my shelf behind me. I have a love affair with these boxes because the artwork is so beautiful. I also like how they sit on the shelf. Even the spines of Game Boy boxes look awesome. But taking those Game Boy boxes, putting them on this stand, it works great. I don't see any problems with putting them on there. It seems to be a great function of this unit. Now, one thing to note, I did test Super Nintendo boxes, and they are too thick for these slots. So keep that in mind. Definitely don't get these if you're just getting them for Super Nintendo boxed games. Now, I'm going to stop there. I know that there's the sky's the limit with these. I mean, you can take anything from a postcard and display it in these to some of the thinner special editions that are out there for modern consoles. I know a lot of Switch special editions or 3DS special editions will fit into these just perfectly, and you'll be able to see those finally. There are so many different options. You just gotta kind of take a look at it and see what fits in there, and then measure that against the things that you're trying to display to see if that'll fit inside of this stand. But overall, it just provides a way to display things, and that's all we can ask for. Now, quality-wise, these definitely live up to Syncoplay Retro Gaming's MO of making a really nice 3D printed project, something that's so nice that you don't think it's 3D printed. I know for a fact Syncoplay throws out the ones that are broken and damaged and even just slightly off. They will not send them out to people. So keep that in mind. Then, of course, the engineering, I think, is top-notch. Making it so the stand is incredibly minimal is very important. I talk about this all the time. It's not about the stand itself. It's more about the games that you're trying to display. That's what you're trying to see. You want to see as little of that stand as possible, and I think these accomplish that while also accomplishing displaying so many different types of games that these become a really good stand to have in your wheelhouse when it comes to your collection. Now, cost-wise, these are $12 a piece, and that may seem kind of high for some people, but understand they have multiple different listings. If you want to get 4 of them, it's $40, and then up from there. So it continues to lower the price while you're buying more of them. So just keep that in mind if you're gonna take an entire shelf and outfit it with these, that you'll be paying way less than that $12 price tag that it is for just a single unit. Though I think with everything that this does, I do think that the value is correct at $12 a unit. I think you could do a lot with this thing. I think it's going to be a handy thing to have in your game collection, even if you just have one. And speaking of just displaying one, I mean, you could just get one of these, put it on your shelf, and display the games that you're most proud of. Doesn't mean you have to dedicate your entire space to being taken up by fewer games than you would put them sideways and just be seeing spines. You can just take one of these, put your favorite games on it, and put it out there and just be in love with those games and the artwork that comes with them. I will say that if you get multiples of these, it looks incredibly impressive. It becomes an art piece of your game collection, and I don't think I can live without it now. And on that note, I definitely think this is kind of in the top echelon of display ideas for a game collection. You could utilize this for pretty much any game collection that's out there. Even at your cartridges, I'm sure would fit into these. You'd be able to display them that way. You could get these stands and be able to display anything in your game collection that happens to fit in these stands. And I think that's fantastic. So hats off to Syncoplay for making another product, another really well-engineered product that doesn't break, doesn't have issues, it's lightweight, displays a ton of stuff. It's just an awesome multi-tool for your game collection. So what do you guys think? Do you think this is a good display idea for a game collection? Is this for you? Is the price too high? Let me know in the comments below. I'm always looking for those ideas, more display ideas, different ways to display game collections, etc. If you're looking for more display ideas, you can always type in disc cart and then the item that you're looking for after it, and probably find a video dedicated to that thing on how to display it. But outside of that, thanks for coming and checking out disc cart today. If you liked the video, please leave a like. If you want to see more videos like it, please subscribe. But otherwise, have a great day and collect what you love.
And there's nobody out there lucky like I am. There's nobody out there that can say my name. And nobody out there lucky like we are. We are like we are. I've been walking down the line and I gotta take time, so I better shape up. You've been trying all along, but I got you on time, so we better wake up. 'Cause there's no